Let's begin.
I love the Kung Fu Panda franchise. Like, unironically. Sure, the films as a whole aren't in the same weight class as something like Toy Story, but I really think it's an interesting series with a lot of heart. The first movie is probably my favorite, so I'm going to talk about it the most. It's funny, has amazing characters, but still manages to be serious at times. In a lot of ways, it's stylized like an Edgar Wright film, and I know that might sound like a kooky comparison at first, but stay with me here.
You're crazy.
I'm not. No, I'm not.
It's no secret Edgar Wright has some of the most creative transitions in modern filmmaking. Basically, every YouTube film essayist, reviewer, or whatever talks about them, and rightfully so. This Shaz deserves all the praise. But I'll tell you what, Kung Fu Panda's got them same kind of transitions. It ain't no Scott Pilgrim, but every now and again we get something super creative that serves the story well. For example, here's this really cool shot of Po waking up from a dream sequence that not only is a fun switch between animation styles, but a vivid introduction to the main character's bumbling personality. I also really like this moment where we watch the snow from Tai Lung's prison slowly change the tone from light celebration to ominous threat. My favorite use of transitions in this film comes from the Pool of Sacred Tears sequence. It's like 7 seconds, but we get a complete visual history of every character's emotion, how they relate to each other as master and student, and how they contribute to the world at large. DreamWorks takes full advantage of the technology in this scene and straight refuses to treat the camera like a real camera. There's just no way you can get that kind of pull with a lens, but that's part of the beauty of animation as a medium. You don't have to stick to real-world conventions when the moment is right in animation. And breaking the rules of reality helps you stick the landing during important story beats. Kung Fu Panda proves this again and again and again, and I love this movie for it.
I love Kung Fu!
I've heard it said that none of Edgar Wright's movies are parodies as much as they are send-ups, and I think that's pretty apropos. A parody sort of implies that the source material is unlikable, or dumb, or something, but in an Edgar Wright movie, you're typically encouraged to love the genre he's playing with. Hot Fuzz, for example, uses the by-the-books cop-turn-rogue trope to point out how absurdly wonderful that trope is.
Little Hand says it's time to rock and roll.
Bring the noise.
He gives the characters a bit more depth and places them in an unusual setting for a buddy cop film, but you never feel like you're laughing at the idea of a happy, fun action movie as much as you are laughing with it. Kung Fu Panda has the same kind of shtick. The animal fighting styles, the melodramatic adoption story, even the fights themselves. They're all lampooning old school flicks, but doing it in a way that lifts up those films as great rather than straight up mocking them. For something specific, look at the character of Oogway. So many martial arts films have a great aging master who teaches a restless young pupil, but this movie manages to play him very straight and allow for some fun commentary on the trope. It's just such a wholesome way to do comedy, and it really tugs at my heartstrings. Another thing Edgar Wright does incredibly well in his films is physical humor. A look, a hit, a dance. It can be hilarious if done right, but it's really hard to do right. You have to be nuanced, you have to be set up well, and most of all, you have to nail the action. All these things get more difficult when you gotta turn down the crassness for a PG rating and don't have the intuition of a live-action actor. Kung Fu Panda handles physical humor really well, though, and has some jokes that are way more complex than, haha, funny fat man fall downstairs. Like this Looney Tunes-esque part with Po and Tai Lung. Or basically any of the training scenes. Funny moments are littered throughout this movie, and it reminds me a lot of Jackie Chan's style, who incidentally voices Monkey in this film. He too created a sort of goofy, improvised feel with his physical comedy, despite being highly choreographed. The environment is super important to Jackie Chan's fights, and you laugh as he impressively MacGyvers his way to victory. I can't help but see his influence on this film, and it's just so silly and smart and good that, I don't know, it's very Jackie Chan, I guess, as much as it is Edgar Wright.
Speed round. Name 10 things that aren't Jackie Chan.
Toothpaste, pizza, lamps, Jackie Chan.
When I say Edgar Wright understands the importance of setting, I'm not saying he picks interesting places to set his movies. What I am saying is that Edgar Wright understands the importance of making a place feel familiar. Where your characters go can be just as vital to a film as the characters themselves. It's a tonal thing, it gives clarity to the plot, and honestly it makes the world a sort of character itself. A zombie-ridden pub in London, Toronto's snow-covered arcades, Stanford's local supermarket. These places give everything else context, and without them their movies wouldn't be as good. The Jade Palace in Kung Fu Panda is the same. This training facility is built up to be almost mythic, as our protagonist scrambles to get small glimpses before being thrust into the Kung Fu world. As Poe gets a closer look, there's an even larger aspect of mythos put in place, as everything has a little detail or embellishment.
Master Flying Rhino's armor with authentic battle damage! Whoa! The Sword of Heroes! Said to be so sharp you can cut yourself just by looking. Ow! The invisible trident of destiny! I've only seen paintings of that painting.
This gives the audience a better sense of Poe's relationship to the world, and it sets up tension for the conclusion. Tai Lung trashing random posts doesn't feel as important as him trashing the reverend home of great kung fu masters. It's thoughtful filmmaking, and it sets up a lot of tonality for the second and third films as well. Would it feel like a journey to a new realm if Poe and company kept coming back to the Jade Palace in Kung Fu Panda 2? Would Kai feel like as much of a threat if he didn't straight up crush the Jade Palace in his first moments during Kung Fu Panda 3? I don't think so. And all that goodness is set up with the Jade Palace in the first installment.
Everyone, go! Get to the Jade Palace! One of the 5 is gonna get the Dragon Scroll! We've been waiting 1,000 years for this! Just take the bowl!
Relational conflict can so easily take the movie train into Garbageville, but Wright always manages to pick scripts with some complex characters who in turn create something you can invest in. Scott Pilgrim, for example.
You're thinking of juggling 2 chicks.
Not even.
Well, you should break up with your fake high school girlfriend.
Wait, who told you?
Wallace, duh.
He's not even conscious.
Scott has baggage, Ramona has baggage, the band has baggage, Knives, the only character who doesn't come in with some emotional weight, develops baggage throughout the story, and the end result is a major conflict that feels more significant. Scott dating 2 girls isn't cheesy, it's legitimately something to care about. If everyone was just one note in that movie, if Scott didn't have a past of being a horrible boyfriend, for example, it wouldn't carry the same tension. Kung Fu Panda's got the same thing going on. Poe's incredibly self-deprecating, but wants to be great. Tigress is great, but was never enough. Shifu has to face the fact that he ruined his surrogate son by constantly calling him great. It's a minefield of motivations that manages to make the real conflict of the story, Poe's integration to Kung Fu, so much meatier.
Is that bacon on your turkey leg?
They call it a Swanson.
Perhaps the one thing that ties together all of Edgar Wright's feature filmography is the theme of respect. And maybe I'm wrong on this because I haven't seen anything older than Shaun of the Dead, but straight up, the Cornetto trilogy, Scott Pilgrim, and Baby Driver are all majorly influenced by the ideas of respecting each other, respecting the world, or respecting yourself. I'd give examples of how you see respect in each of these films, but I do want to talk about the Kung Fu Panda sequels. So you can just trust me on this one, or just watch these incredible movies by yourself and see that I'm right. Kung Fu Panda's definitely about respect. The 5 learn to respect each other regardless of initial biases because the unlikeliest of people can surprise you in the best of ways. Shifu learns to respect the world because some situations are out of your control, but you can always choose to respond in a positive way. Poe learns from Mr. Ping, aka the best character DreamWorks has ever dreamed, that you are only as special as much as you have self-respect. Just like the Dragon Scroll is actually a mirror and the secret ingredient to secret ingredient soup is nothing, having self-respect is key to having a positive impact on your universe. It's a beautiful thing when you think about it, and from time to time when I get upset or feel worthless or whatever, I'm reminded about this movie and it makes me feel a little bit better.
I'm not a big fat panda. I'm the big fat panda. The whooshy finger hold. Oh, you know this hold.
You're bluffing. You're bluffing! Shifu didn't teach you that.
Nope. I figured it out. Skadoosh.
So yeah, the first Kung Fu Panda is rad, just like Edgar Wright movies are rad. But are the sequels rad? Well, let's get into it. Kung Fu Panda 2 tosses out a lot of the righty elements for something more Asian-inspired. It's not a send-up, it's a weirdly earnest martial arts adventure, complete with the legendary hero's tragic backstory, a romantic subplot, and a despicable one-dimensional villain. The characters even call out all their special moves like something from the 1970s.
Feet of Fury!
Dragon whips his tail.
It almost doesn't feel like a film made in the US, more like something created for Chinese audiences that was then reanimated with an English dubbing. The story is similar to the first. There's a father-son dynamic, you find peace in tragedy, you get stronger, yada yada yada, but honestly that's where a lot of comparison ends. The tone, for example, is insanely dark. Like, the main villain commits a genocide, straight up tries to murder a protagonist with a knife, and when he can't win, he accepts his own death by crushing. Feature film animation has always had some bleak moments, a la Bambi's mom got shot, or all of the toys in Toy Story 3 gonna die. But the thing about this movie that makes it feel so adult is that DreamWorks doesn't mix words at all. People are constantly talking about death and stuff, and it's just like, yeah, there's a panda Hitler. Not something I expected from a film with SKADOOSH in the tagline, but in a weird way it works.
Skadoosh.
There's more to the second Kung Fu Panda film than an interesting tone, however. The detail of the artwork is ridiculous. I mean, the character designs alone. Bunnies, geese, pigs, deer things, goats, wolves, apes, all that had to take a lot of time. You really see how nuanced everything is in Mr. Ping's noodle shop. Lighting effects, fur and feather textures, the team even designed small facial elements for the extras. This level of craftsmanship shows up on a macro level too, as cascading villages, ornate palaces, and seaside ports steal the show at points and mark a huge upgrade in DreamWorks' background animation when compared to Kung Fu Panda 1. The actual movement of the characters is bonkers too. Lord Shen, for example, has like 50 bazillion different points of articulation, and you see emotion in every action he takes. It elevates the fight scenes he's in from fun to astounding. Just look at this final confrontation between Po and Shen. It moves so fast you can hardly see it, but we get panda splits and dodges and all kinds of crazy moves in there. You see details like splinters fly and fur react to water and smoke here too, and just golly, it's like something on a Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Other fights are very Jackie Chan-esque again, incorporating musical instruments, jail cell doors, and actual buildings that makes for some amazing sequences, but it's nice to kind of break those up with just a very emotional skill against skill fight. I don't know. I'm a fan.
You gotta let go of that stuff from the past, because it just doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is what you choose to be now.
You're right.
Then I choose this!
Before moving on, I just want to briefly compliment director Jennifer Yu Nelson for incorporating 3 different visual styles in this movie. There's a sort of mock shadow puppetry in the beginning, and then of course the more modern, like 3D thing that almost the entire movie is in. But she also commissioned some amazing traditionally drawn flashbacks. They're stunning scenes, and I think they really highlight the beauty of these art forms that aren't as popular anymore. One can only hope that the next generation saw this and got inspired.
Honey, what are you doing here? But I thought we replaced you, dear, with this lovely radish. Radish?
So moving on to the last film, Kung Fu Panda 3 is... well, I almost didn't include it in the video. I really want this show to focus on what makes great sequels and remakes. There's so much negativity online about film, it's almost disparaging to click on any video about movies these days. But honestly, I don't know what to do with a movie like Kung Fu Panda 3 that is so bad I can't recommend it to people in good conscience, but so good that I have to acknowledge the sheer passion that went into it. So I guess what I'm saying here is I'm about to be kind of a bummer in this next section, and watch Kung Fu Panda 3 and my review of it at your own discretion.
This is a bummer, man. That's It's a bummer.
Instead of doubling down on the tone of the second, the tone that made Jennifer Hugh Nelson one of the highest-grossing female directors of all time, the third Kung Fu Panda focuses largely on lighthearted comedy. And it sucked. I mean, come on! We seriously spend most of the movie going, haha, they're like lazy pandas, right? Aren't their lazy antics hysterical? And no, they're not. They're not. The jokes are boring, stupid, pointless, and mostly they're just not funny. The first film was super smart at playing with your expectations, and the second had some really good one-liners, but this movie? Screw that. You get a weirdly sexual ribbon panda voiced by Kate Hudson and the one good pig scene.
Oh, what about the Dragon Warrior lookalike contest?
Oh, Mrs. Chow always wins that.
Skadoosh.
It's tragic because I used to tell my friends that these movies were funny, and I just can't anymore. The Panda Village and the Kai section are like two different movies. There's just so much greatness that gets undercut by bad jokes. It almost seems like an exec didn't realize the second film would be as financially successful as it was, and then didn't let anyone do their jobs when the third one came around because they were so scared of losing a cash cow. You can see the shadows of a great action film in here. J.K. Simmons is an amazing villain. The zombies are freaking cool. When the palace gets destroyed, I legitimately got chills. The small amount of martial arts we do get is perfection. The characters and world still have great designs. There's some crazy stylistic scenes, and the main premise actually builds on all the motivations of everyone. I mean, it's so smart, and I can see that there was love and effort and care put into this thing, and it makes me upset to see it trampled by, like, somebody, I don't even know, the 6-year-old girl with a $4 microphone screaming "Stripey Baby" over and over again.
Huh?
So now you know my thoughts on the whole franchise. But why did I choose it for this show? Why do I want more sequels like Kung Fu Panda 2 and 3? I'll give you my reasoning in a word. Score. Hans Zimmer, who, if you don't know, did this, and this, and this, and this, and like a zillion other movie scores, also made the soundtrack for the entire Kung Fu Panda franchise with help from DreamWorks alum John Powell. In my opinion, these soundtracks are completely overlooked gems. Keep in mind, I'm not like a music guy. I don't know anything about theory, I can't read the stuff, and I probably couldn't tell you why something sounds good to me in an educated way. But when I listen to this song from the first Kung Fu Panda movie, there's such a sadness to it. My heart flutters when it plays, and I really get a sense of that moment in time. It communicates so much without saying anything. And this track from the second film. it's inspiring. The epicness of the drums and like the guitar thing and like all of that, it connects me to the courage of the characters and honestly makes the movie what it is. You couldn't have Kung Fu Panda 2 without the soundtrack. It would be B+ at best. Kai's theme in the third film, which is actually a remix of an Imagine Dragons song, is terrifying in the weirdest way. It's not like a traditional villain score with a crap ton of high-pitched strings or a high tempo or something. It's looming, like something creeping out of a Chinese forest. I'm absolutely in love with it and get like pumped every time it starts playing in the background. In my opinion, a score should sound good on its own without a connection to a film, and yet also be so ingrained in the themes and ideology of the movie it was made for that it's hard to separate the two. There's just no way you can toss the Imperial March by John Williams into a different film without someone going, oh yeah, that's the Star Wars song. I know the bam, yes, I get it. It's perfectly crafted for that franchise and that franchise alone. The Kung Fu Panda soundtrack hits that same vein for me. It's great, and it shows a mastery that only a few people can achieve. So yeah, Zimmer, Powell, keep doing what you're doing. I can't wait to listen to what you do next, and I want more great scores like this in movie sequels.
Okay.
Thanks for watching. If you thought that was cool, I plan to upload like at least one video every month on the 22nd, the most sequely of days, so there'll definitely be more content to come. You can also follow me on Twitter at IsaacLastname to get updates about the show, fun facts about movies I'm watching, and, you know, other thoughts. So if you're Twittery, hit me up. I am in school now. I'm a full-time student, and I have 3 jobs. So you might not be getting a More Please every single month anymore, but I'll make sure that something goes up every single month on the 22nd, whether it's More Please or just something else I can dream up. These kind of videos take a lot of, like, time to make. There's a lot of scripting, and, like, I gotta do little editing and, you know, not complaining, just like saying it might take me a little bit longer because I don't have as much free time. But I'm gonna get you something. I'm gonna hook you up. Okay. Wow, I've said like 50 times. Thanks again for watching. Oh God. Have a good day.